quite sure how your lawyers managed to do this, but I wish you good luck, sir.
Those words from the judge only hit different once you peep the real. Bortland already switched sides. He allegedly leaked over 200 clips of YNW Melly. Footage prosecutors claim shows threats, intimidation, and violations of court order. And word is that the footage, Melly might never touch the pavement as a free man again. The snitching that changed the whole game. The courtroom surrounding YNW Melly's double murder trial has already become one of the most chaotic and dissected spectacles in hip-hop legal history. Every appearance by Jamel Demons, better known as YNW Melly, brings new attention, theories, and controversy. But the revelation that co-defendant Cortland Henry, known publicly as YNW Bortland, has allegedly leaked over 200 separate clips of Melly inside the courtroom has taken the drama to an entirely new level. These clips, according to online chatter and viral uploads, include moments where Melly appears to directly threaten Bortland while under the gaze of the court. The sheer gravity of these accusations forces scrutiny into not only Melly's behavior, but also the survival tactics of his former closest ally, the very man prosecutors accuse of helping cover up a grisly double murder. At the foundation of this story is the original October 26, 2018 incident in Miramar, Florida. Prosecutors allege that Melly shot and killed his two friends, Christopher Thomas Jr., YNW Juvie, and Anthony Williams, YNW Sack Chaser, while they were all inside a gray Jeep driven by Bortland. In court, the state has made it clear that their theory is not one of random tragedy, but calculated execution, followed by a staged drive-by shooting designed to mislead police. The opening statement from the prosecutor set the tone by declaring bluntly,
"On October 26th of 2018, this defendant shot and killed two of his friends. He killed Christopher Thomas and Anthony Williams."
According to the prosecution, Bortland then drove the bodies to Memorial Miramar Hospital under the cover story of a drive-by shooting. But detectives, after combing through Miramar Parkway, found no shell casings, shattered glass, or ballistic evidence to support the account. Instead, as shown in the same opening statement, they concluded the scene had been staged.
"There is a lack of any evidence whatsoever to support that a drive-by happened on Miramar Parkway."
However, in one of the most straight-up bogus moves in the YNW Melly double murder case, YNW Bortland took a rat deal on September 9th, 2025, just hours before his trial was about to pop off. This moment is some real snake shit in a case that's had the whole hood watching for over 6 years, and it's about to put his day one homie YNW Melly in the dirt.
So I had set this afternoon with the deadline as to whether or not Mr. Henry wanted to accept the state's offer or not.
Real talk, this moment hit different. Cortland Malik Henry, better known as YNW Bortland, was looking at spending his whole life locked up in a cage. Before this snake move, Bortland was facing 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of accessory after the fact to murder, witness tampering in a capital felony, directing activities of a criminal gang, conspiracy to commit tampering, and unlawful use of a two-way communication device. The judge made it crystal clear what time it was.
So, sir, again, before the agreement you made with the state, before the deal you made with the state, your maximum exposure here was life in Florida State Prison.
But in a move that had the whole trap house shook, prosecutors offered Bortland a deal that would drop the murder charges in exchange for pleading no contest to accessory after the fact and witness tampering charges. The terms were straight fire for someone who was looking at basically dying in prison. This plea deal shows exactly how the state been playing chess while these cats been playing checkers. Bortland caught a 10-year bid with credit for approximately 4.5 years already served, followed by 6 years of probation. This means homeboy could potentially touch down around January 2032 instead of never seeing the streets again. But here's where this shit gets real spicy and potentially deadly for Melly. This plea agreement got a crucial part that a lot of these suburban cats might sleep on: the proffer requirement. This ain't just some simple "my bad" confession. It's a sworn statement where Bortland gotta spill all the tea about what really went down on October 26, 2018, when Anthony YNW Sack Chaser Williams and Christopher YNW Juvie Thomas Jr. caught them slugs.
Sir, lastly, and I want to make it very clear on the record, and it's unrelated to this negotiated change of plea, I guess at some point after the fact, the state wants to take a proffer from you or have a discussion with you, ask you some questions about whatever that may be. What I want you to understand, sir, is I guess that's part of this negotiated resolution, but your answers to any of those questions, whatever they might be, have no bearing on me and have no bearing on this negotiated resolution. In other words, the deal you've negotiated is the deal you've negotiated. and that's the ballgame.
The judge's words is straight telling. While he's making it clear that this snitching session won't mess up Bortland's deal, the fact that it's required shows what the Fed's really trying to get. Bortland's lawyer's been saying there's no requirement for him to testify against Melly, but this proffer session could drop crucial info that's been missing from the prosecution's whole setup. The forensic evidence in this case been painting a real ugly picture from day one.
So let me set the scene for you at the recording studio, because there's actually 8 young men there. You're going to hear they arrived at the recording studio, not much was getting done. They were tired. They left at 3:19, and they got into 2 vehicles. So first vehicle is a red Mitsubishi SUV. In that red Mitsubishi SUV, 4 individuals get into it. Travion Glass, Dontavius Withers, Jacoby Mills, and Adrian Davis. They are in the red Mitsubishi. In the gray Jeep, you have the driver, Cortland Henry, rear driver's side passenger, Jamel Demmons, Anthony Williams in the front seat, and Cortland Henry, again, the driver, Christopher Thomas in the rear.
Ballistics analysis showed that bullets entered the victim's domes from close range, with trajectories consistent with shots fired from inside the whip rather than from some outside drive-by. Even more sus, investigators found spent shell casings inside the vehicle, including one casing that was discovered in a white plastic bag, suggesting somebody was trying to hide evidence. But probably the most damning piece of evidence been the digital trail. Phone records and GPS data showed that all 4 cats' devices traveled together, contradicting any claims that Melly had been dropped off somewhere else before the shooting.
But then what you're going to see is the cell phone evidence. The digital leash. The item that is carried around in everyone's pocket, in everyone's car, you use on a daily basis. Because you're going to see, as Jamel Demmons leaves that recording studio, he's got his phone in his hand, and he's playing on his phone. You're going to see on that phone information that Anthony Williams had his phone with him. Not only do they have the same make and model of cell phone, they are on the exact same cell phone plan. They're using the same service, the same cell towers, everything like that. So you can compare the information from those 2 cell phones and see how they track together.
Even more incriminating, Melly allegedly sent an Instagram DM hours after the shooting, responding to someone asking if he was okay with, "I did that." Now, with Bortland's rat deal, the prosecution got confirmation from the only other survivor of that night. By pleading no contest to accessory after the fact charges, Bortland is basically admitting that a murder went down and that he helped cover that shit up.
The other interesting thing the medical examiner's office is going to tell you is that when the drive-by was staged at 4:02 a.m., the victims were already dead.
This ain't just about dodging trial, it's about the prosecution finally having somebody from inside the whip confirm their whole story. The timing of this snitch move is also crucial to understand. Bortland's trial was literally about to start the next day, September 10, 2025. The judge made it crystal clear this was crunch time.
All right, if you want to have a trial, the trial starts tomorrow. If you want to accept the deal, you can accept the deal today. But there's not going to be any buyer's remorse, in other words, because I've given you plenty of time to think about this.
This last-minute nature of the plea suggests that Bortland's legal team finally peeped how strong the evidence against him was and realized homeboy was about to get multiple life sentences if he went to trial. The prosecution had reportedly offered earlier deals, including a 16-year sentence, but those offers had apparently expired. The final deal he took was actually better than those earlier offers, suggesting that prosecutors were eager to secure his cooperation before Melly's retrial. The psychological impact of this betrayal can't be understated. Melly and Bortland were day one homies from Gifford, Florida, who came up together in the music game as part of the YNW crew. They were more than just business partners. They were brothers who shared dreams of getting out the hood through their music. The fact that Bortland ultimately chose his own freedom over loyalty to his homeboy represents some real snake shit that cuts to the heart of the no snitching code that runs deep in hip-hop culture.
Mr. Henry, I'm not quite sure how your lawyers managed to do this, but I wish you good luck, sir.
Even the judge seemed surprised by how sweet the deal was that Bortland's attorneys managed to negotiate. This suggests that prosecutors were willing to make major concessions to secure what they view as crucial cooperation in their case against Melly. As we move forward, it's important to understand that this plea deal represents way more than just one defendant getting out of his case. It's a strategic W for prosecutors who've been building their case against Melly for over 6 years, and it could provide them with the final pieces of evidence they need to secure a conviction in what's been a challenging and high-profile prosecution. The snitching session that could body Melly's defense. The most devastating part of Bortland's rat deal ain't just the admission of guilt, it's what comes next. This proffer requirement embedded in his plea agreement represents potential destruction for YNW Melly's defense strategy, and it's something that many suburban observers are sleeping on in terms of its potential impact on the upcoming retrial. In legal terms, a proffer is often called a queen for a day session, where a defendant provides sworn testimony about their knowledge of events in exchange for limited immunity. Bortland must provide a proffer detailing his role in the events surrounding the October 2018 shootings, and while his attorneys insist this won't require testimony against Melly, the reality is way more complex and potentially deadly. Detective testimony and forensic evidence from Melly's first trial revealed a carefully orchestrated cover-up. According to prosecutors, after Melly allegedly bodied Sack Chaser and Juvie inside the whip, he and Bortland drove to some isolated location near the Everglades where they staged a fake drive-by shooting. They allegedly fired additional shots into the vehicle from the outside to make it look like an external attack, then drove the bodies to multiple locations before finally pulling up to the hospital. Now, through his proffer, Bortland gonna be required to provide his version of these events under oath. This ain't just about admitting to accessory after the fact. It's about providing a detailed, sworn account that could fill in crucial gaps in the prosecution's timeline. Even if Bortland doesn't directly snitch on Melly as the shooter, his account of the cover-up activities could back up key elements of the state's case. The strategic implications become clear when we examine Melly's defense strategy from his first trial. Defense attorneys argued that Melly wasn't even in the whip when the shooting occurred, claiming he had been dropped off at some point during the drive. This not in the car defense was crucial because it would completely clear Melly if jurors believed it. However, Bortland's proffer could definitively establish Melly's presence in the vehicle and his participation in subsequent cover-up activities. The forensic evidence already strongly contradicts the drive-by narrative. Crime scene analysis revealed that all bullet casings were found inside the vehicle, with trajectories indicating shots fired from the rear left seat, exactly where Melly was positioned according to surveillance footage from the recording studio. But forensic evidence can be challenged and reinterpreted. A sworn statement from the only other survivor, however, is way harder to dispute. Consider the devastating impact this could have on several key aspects of Melly's defense. First, the timeline gets locked down tight. Cell phone data and GPS tracking already showed the movements of all 4 devices throughout the night, but there were still questions about exactly when events occurred and in what sequence. Bortland's proffer will provide a minute-by-minute account from someone who was there, making it much harder for the defense to create alternative timelines or cast doubt on the sequence of events. Second, the motive question could finally get answered. One of the weaknesses in the prosecution's case has been the lack of a clear motive for why Melly would smoke his day one homies. While theories have been floated about financial disputes over the YNW brand or other beefs, there hasn't been definitive testimony about what triggered the violence. Bortland's proffer could provide crucial details about any arguments, threats, or escalating tensions that led to the shooting. Third, and perhaps most damaging, the proffer could undermine Melly's entire defense narrative. If Bortland confirms that Melly was in the whip during the shooting and participated in the staging afterward, it becomes nearly impossible for defense attorneys to maintain their client's innocence. The defense would be forced to shift from denial to damage control, possibly arguing for lesser charges or mitigating circumstances. The psychological warfare aspect of this development can't be ignored either. Melly filed a motion for new counsel immediately after Bortland's plea deal, citing irreconcilable differences with his current attorneys. This suggests that Bortland's betrayal has forced a complete reassessment of defense strategy. When your co-defendant and day one homie decides to cooperate with the feds, it sends a clear signal about the strength of the case against you. The cultural implications within hip-hop circles add another layer of pressure. The no snitching code is fundamental to hip-hop culture, and Bortland's decision to cooperate, even in a limited capacity, represents a violation of this code. While his attorneys insist he won't testify against Melly, the mere fact that he accepted a deal requiring requiring a proffer has already branded him as a rat in the eyes of many in the hood.
That if they did it, they would have been found guilty a long time ago.
Some observers, like content creator 1090 Jake, have questioned whether the prosecution even has a strong case, pointing to the length of time the case has taken and the previous mistrial as evidence of weak evidence. However, this perspective may be overly optimistic for Melly's defense team. The 2023 trial ended in a mistrial with a 9. 3 juries split favoring lesser charges like manslaughter rather than full acquittal. This suggests that most jurors believed Melly was involved in the deaths, even if they weren't convinced of premeditated murder. Now, with Bortland's cooperation, prosecutors will enter the retrial with significantly more ammunition. The proffer provides them with an insider's account of events, potentially filling in gaps that may have created reasonable doubt in the first trial. Even if Bortland never takes the witness stand, his proffer statement could be used to corroborate other evidence and create a more compelling narrative for jurors. The timing advantage for prosecutors is also significant. Melly's retrial has been delayed until January 2027, giving the prosecution additional time to incorporate Bortland's proffer into their case strategy. They can use his statement to refine their timeline, identify additional evidence to pursue, and craft a more cohesive narrative for the retrial. Perhaps most importantly, Bortland's proffer eliminates one of the defense's potential strategies. In complex cases involving multiple defendants, it's common for co-defendants to point fingers at each other, creating confusion about who was actually responsible. With Bortland now cooperating rather than fighting the charges, Melly can no longer hope for a blame the other guy defense strategy. The psychological pressure on Melly must be enormous. He has been locked up since February 2019, spending over 6 years in the county waiting while maintaining his innocence. Now, facing a retrial where his former day one homie may provide evidence against him, the isolation and betrayal must be overwhelming. This psychological state could potentially influence his decision-making as the retrial approaches, possibly making him more open to plea negotiations of his own. The broader implications extend beyond just this case. Bortland's decision to cooperate sends a message to other defendants in high-profile cases that loyalty has its limits when faced with life in prison. This could influence how similar cases are prosecuted and defended in the future, particularly in the hip-hop community, where personal relationships often intersect with criminal allegations. The final snake move and what it means for Melly's future. What we're witnessing ain't just a plea deal. It's the systematic destruction of a friendship, a music crew, and potentially YNW Melly's entire future. The ripple effects of this decision will reverberate through the hip-hop community for years to come, serving as a stark reminder of how quickly loyalty can evaporate when life sentences loom. The immediate aftermath of Bortland's plea deal revealed the depth of the schism that had opened between former day ones. Within hours of accepting the deal, Bortland was transferred to South Florida Reception Center, where intake photos showed him with his signature dreads chopped off, symbolically marking his transformation from loyal homie to cooperating witness. The image went viral on social media, generating a mixture of sympathy and condemnation from fans who saw it as visual proof of his fall from grace. But perhaps more telling was Melly's immediate response. Just one day after Bortland's plea hearing, Melly filed a motion requesting new legal counsel, citing irreconcilable differences with his current attorneys. This desperate move suggests that Bortland's cooperation has fundamentally altered the landscape of his defense, forcing a complete strategic reassessment with less than 2 years remaining before his retrial. The cultural ramifications within hip-hop circles can't be overstated. Social media erupted with debate about Bortland's decision, reflecting the deep divisions within the community about cooperation with law enforcement. Some posts condemned him as a rat who violated hip-hop's fundamental no-snitching code, while others expressed understanding for his choice to prioritize his freedom and future over loyalty to someone who may have committed murder.
It's certainly a jump to conclusion, but I understand why people may think that. What often happens is prior to any plea negotiation or during plea negotiations and prior to any plea being entered by a defendant, there are many conversations that are going on.
Legal expert Safa Robinson Ferrer's analysis highlights an important reality that many observers miss. Plea negotiations rarely happen in isolation. The likelihood is that Melly and Bortland's camps communicated extensively before the plea was finalized, possibly even reaching an understanding about what Bortland would and wouldn't reveal in his proffer. This suggests a calculated betrayal rather than a spontaneous abandonment of loyalty. The strategic implications for Melly's defense team are staggering. With Bortland's cooperation secured, prosecutors now have an insider's account of the entire sequence of events from October 26, 2018. Even if Bortland never takes the witness stand, and his attorneys insist he won't be required to testify, his proffer statement provides prosecutors with a roadmap for their case that they previously lacked. Consider the devastating chain of evidence that Bortland's cooperation could complete. The prosecution already had forensic evidence showing the shooting happened inside the whip, digital evidence placing all 4 cats together throughout the night, and circumstantial evidence about the staging of the crime scene. What they lacked was a coherent narrative from someone who was actually there. Bortland's proffer fills that gap, providing the human element that could make the forensic evidence compelling to jurors. The victims' families have already moved to capitalize on this development, with their attorney requesting Bortland's deposition for civil wrongful death lawsuits. This creates additional pressure on Bortland to provide detailed, truthful testimony, as any inconsistencies between his criminal proffer and civil deposition could expose him to perjury charges and void his plea agreement. The timing of Melly's retrial, now scheduled for January 2027, gives prosecutors nearly 2 years to incorporate Bortland's proffer into their case strategy. This ain't just about adding another piece of evidence. It's about fundamentally restructuring their approach to prosecuting Melly. They can now craft their opening statements and witness examination around a coherent narrative provided by someone who was in the whip that night. Perhaps most ominously for Melly, Florida's recent changes to death penalty law now allow non-unanimous jury recommendations for execution. Where the prosecution previously needed unanimous jury agreement to pursue the death penalty, they now need only 8 out of 12 jurors. Combined with Bortland's cooperation, this legal change significantly increases the stakes for Melly's retrial. The psychological toll of this betrayal on Melly can't be underestimated. He has now spent over 6 years locked up awaiting trial, during which time he's been largely isolated from friends and family. His mother has publicly stated that she's had minimal contact with him, and he's been denied phone privileges for extended periods. To learn that his closest friend and co-defendant has now chosen cooperation over loyalty must be psychologically devastating.
6.5 years, and with no phone calls, no visits. They say his mama said she ain't seen him since like since they been in there, damn near. She ain't seen him. She said she talked to him on the phone a couple of times, but they took all his phone privileges.
This isolation may actually work in prosecutors' favor as the retrial approaches. Extended pretrial detention, combined with the knowledge that his former homie is cooperating, could make Melly more receptive to plea negotiations of his own. Legal experts have noted that the prosecution's case was already strong enough to convince 9 out of 12 jurors in the first trial, and that was without Bortland's cooperation. The broader implications for the hip-hop industry are also significant. This case has become a cautionary tale about the consequences of mixing street credibility with commercial success. The YNW collective represented the American dream, young cats from impoverished backgrounds in Gifford, Florida, who found success through their musical talent. Their story was supposed to be one of triumph over adversity, but it has instead become a tragedy of loyalty betrayed and lives destroyed.
Look, I have a couple people around that I've been friends with forever, but they're not really involved in my life like that. They're not involved in my business. They're not involved in my day-to-day.
Industry observers have noted that this case reinforces the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people as success grows. The pressure to bring childhood homies along on the journey to stardom can create dangerous situations when those friends aren't prepared for the scrutiny and pressures that come with fame and fortune. For Melly's remaining supporters, hope appears to be dwindling. While some continue to maintain his innocence and point to what they see as weaknesses in the prosecution's case, the reality is that Bortland's cooperation has fundamentally altered the dynamics of the upcoming retrial. The prosecution now has an insider's account to complement their forensic and digital evidence, creating a potentially overwhelming case for conviction. The financial implications are also staggering. Melly has continued to release music from prison, including the album Young New Wave in April 2024, but his earning potential remains severely limited. A conviction would effectively end his career and his ability to support his family, while also exposing him to potentially massive civil liability from the victims' families. As we approach the final act of this legal drama, scheduled to begin in January 2027, the stage is set for what could be one of the most closely watched trials in hip-hop history. Prosecutors will enter the courtroom with their strongest case yet, armed with forensic evidence, digital communications, and now the cooperation of the only other survivor from that tragic night in October 2018. For YNW Melly, the young cat from Gifford who dreamed of rap stardom, the American dream has become an American nightmare. His day one homie's ultimate betrayal may have sealed his fate, transforming him from a rising star into a cautionary tale about loyalty, friendship, and the devastating consequences of violence. As the hip-hop world watches and waits, one question remains. Will this be the betrayal that finally brings justice for Sack Chaser and Juvie, or will Melly somehow find a way to overcome the mounting evidence against him? The answer lies just over a year away, but the damage to relationships, reputations, and lives has already been done. In the end, YNW Bortland's plea deal represents more than just a legal strategy. It's the final chapter in the destruction of what was once an unbreakable bond between homies who promised to ride together until the end. Click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this.